Thank you for taking that little bit of time to familiarize yourself maybe with not only your neighbor, but with your motivation. And I'm hoping that the next 90 minutes are going to be some of the most important 90 minutes. Of course, I'm sure you'd like me to think that for you. But for you, in the next 15 years of your family life. Okay? And why I'm saying that is because it has to do precisely with that question as to why are you bringing your children to the first communion, if you will, first Eucharist, first reconciliation process of preparation. So what is, and depending on what you shared at your table, that's fine. Sometimes, we're just getting to know people. So, but I'm asking you to with me tonight for the next 90 minutes, or now we're down to 80, to really go down for the deep down answer to that question. And I'm hoping that maybe we can leave today with some clearer reflection in all of in our parish life, in our church life, as to what we hope for these children. So what is it? That's really what the question, why are you bringing your child to the First Holy Communion preparation process, is that really I could have said, well, what are you hoping for your child 15 years from now? What the sociologists call the emerging adults. Those 21, 22, 23, 24-year-olds who are coming into adulthood. That's what I'm hoping that we can clarify today. So let's conclude that opening reflection, and thanks for the scripture reading and for being willing to share. Really charged up about this, so I want to make sure I keep on time, because I really respect and appreciate your time and your sacrifice of this time this evening to come and spend together in church, in the church, in reflection upon the life of your children and your role as not only the teachers of your children in the ways of faith, but I'm going to suggest today as the pastors of your domestic church. So you can, as you can imagine, the difference in those two words, teacher and pastor, those are two different things. So I'm hoping that this evening we're going to clarify the essential role of parents in the handing on of the faith, to affirm the Catholic faith of the parents, so that would be all of you, to teach concrete strategies to build homes of faith, families as small group, okay? And to encourage the essential strategy of sharing faith as a family. So that's where I'm hoping we're going. About 2011, I think it was, Sister, or 12, the Parish Pastoral Council of this very parish, one of the parents who had 3 children in our school at the time, said to us as we were planning and strategizing for the future of St. Albert the Great Parish, he said to us, and Victor Dracy, some of you might know Victor, his wife Camilla, his father, we can teach our kids the catechism. What we need is help in sharing our faith with them. So this guy he really had his finger on the pulse, and it does bring the question for, well, what is the job of parents and parish in the sharing of the faith, the handing on of the faith? I know some of you maybe have called and said, Father, I had a second grader already go through this. I mean, how many of you, this is your first child is in our program? Wow, see, it's not even half of you. So I know that the rest of you are veterans, and you're probably thinking, oh, really? Another First Communion program? What can I possibly have to learn about a second grader receiving First Holy Communion? And the answer to that is not much. You know it already. As a matter of fact, all of you know what you need to know and what your kid needs to know, so to speak, in order to worthily receive First Holy Communion or make his first confession. That's not the problem. And if you don't know that, we got books for you, we've got catechisms, we've got the whole 9 yards, so we can teach you how to teach your child. But that's not the point, and that's not why I invited you here this evening. This is not about how your child is going to make his or her first Holy Communion. That's not the point. The point is that why are you and I expending so much energy and maybe not so much in order to make sure that the kid makes his first Holy Communion? And more importantly, so that's the question. Why are you bringing your child to this first communion preparation process? What I would like to talk to you about is not about your children. I would like to talk to you about you and me. And as the elders, as the pastors, if you will, of the church, me, locally, the ecclesial community, and you, the domestic church. That's what they call it, the church of the home. So that, and how is it that you and I are oriented toward the faith? There is probably, in my mind, as you can imagine, I'm thinking of a more right answer to that question. Why are you bringing your child to First Communion, in the First Communion process? You know? So, but I realize there are many possible answers out there. And so I don't want anybody to walk away feeling bad about why, but I am hoping that you are going to join me in considering, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that why, but I guess, maybe he or they or the church or these sociologists, actually, who are from Notre Dame University in Indiana, they have really opened my eyes, and maybe they will open your eyes to what is happening in the life of children and in the faith of children, and what is the primary practice and experience that they have in the home that can predict their 25-year-old participation in the Catholic Church. So they think they have the answer, and so that's why we're here this evening. When we have the rite of baptism, all of you have brought your children to baptism, so they wouldn't be coming to First Communion if they haven't already come to baptism. And may these parents also be the best of teachers, bearing witness to the faith by what they say and do in Christ Jesus our Lord. So right from the get-go, and actually in the wedding ceremony, I don't know how many of you have been married recently, but in the new translation of the marriage rite, we're already talking about parenting at the marriage rite. Of course, parenting and what you are doing with your child, and most of you with your spouse. By the way, let me just put that understanding out. I realize that I am not a perfect Christian, and you probably all know that better than I do. But I know that there are no perfect Christians, and I know there are no perfect families. And so I know some of you are in various configurations of family life. So if I inadvertently say mom and dad, and please know that I understand that some of it's just dad, some of it's just mom, some might be a grandparent or an uncle or a guardian. So please know that when I'm talking about the family, I am considering all those configurations, and all of them are good. But at marriage, we begin already talking about the raising of children to the glory of God and to the blessing of the world. And of course, at baptism, we really clarify the parents as the first teachers and the best teachers of their children in the ways of faith. I hope nobody is misunderstanding that means you're the best catechist in the town, that you are the most effective teacher of religion to your child. That's not necessarily what we are meaning. So what are we meaning about this teaching role of parents? The Catechism of the Catholic Church, if you don't have one of these, it might be worth investing in, especially for your own faith development. But it says that chapter 22-21, the moral education and spiritual formation of children, the role of parents in education is of such importance that it is almost impossible to provide an adequate substitute. So not that you're saying, well, I thought you just said we didn't have to be the teachers of our kids in the ways of faith. Well, I think we need to expand on this, because we have back here Miss Landers, Miss Rue, Sister Kate. We have the other catechists in our PSR program, and of course there's Miss Powell in the second grade in the day school. They are trained catechists. They are trained teachers of the faith. And however, they are not the first teacher, and they are not the best teacher of your child in the ways of faith. That's you. That is you. And I know it's an awesome responsibility. And my job as pastor and an official teacher of the faith here is to help you do that. That's what I am, the servant of the servants of God. I am the teacher of the teachers. So that I cannot do for your children what God and the church believes you are able to do and you are called to do. Let's continue on. So the parents have the first responsibility for the education of their children. Now here it gets a little bit by creating a home. So that this is telling us not only what is the role of the parent, what is the content of the teaching, if you will, the role of teacher, but where is the location? And this is where the sociologists have come and have helped us to understand. It's at the home. So that if you, and well, if parents are not accomplishing this mission of handing on the faith in the home, what the sociologists are telling us, doing everything else in their religious life, sending them to religious classes, making them make their first communion, making them make their confirmation, none of that contributes to their being practicing Catholics as adults. So people they send their kids to Catholic religion classes, they send their kids to the First Communion program, they send them to the confirmation program. If they are not doing this ministry in the home, those children are no more likely than others. Why are you, I guess, are you a practicing Catholic? So are you a practicing Catholic? Now, and you will say, well, I'm here, aren't I? Well, yes, I understand, and I appreciate that you're here. But are you practicing the faith in the way these religious sociologists have said, is that, first of all, that they understand that their personal faith has power in their lives to make meaning. So that's the first thing. Second of all, are you practicing the faith, at least, as the church says, once a week on Sunday? So that is another. And thirdly, are you articulate? Are you conversational about your religion and your faith in your home? So that's the first question. Am I practicing my faith? So that's going to be the first challenge. And second of all, are you accomplishing this one thing that they say predicts this is like the statistics are really strange. We're talking about 75-80% of the young adults who are practicing the faith of their youth because they experienced the faith from their parents and they heard the faith from their parents at home. So this is really kind of groundbreaking research, I guess. So, and what is this home? What is the petri dish in which this germ of holy religion grows in a Catholic home? How about tenderness, forgiveness, respect, faith, and disinterested service? This requires an apprenticeship so that, that Jesus, his disciples, he had disciples, he was a master or a teacher, so teacher and disciple. This is what they say about the Catholic home. The home it's an apprenticeship, so that your children are not just obeying you, your children are not just following you, your children are studying you. And this is particularly dicey. Those of you that have teenagers, you may, and the adults said this throughout this study that they performed, the teenagers are really deceiving creatures, because they give you the impression as parents that they really don't care what you think, they really don't like you, and they really are tired of you nagging them, and they just want to be left alone. that seems to be kind of the culture, what they say, the cultural narrative about teenagers. And that might be the case with your teens. They don't appear to be interested in what you care about. They're not, but that's the kind of the lie that has been revealed in all this. They are studying you like with a laser beam. And when they turn 25 years of age and they have the option for a lifestyle, they have an option for a practice of faith, a relationship to God, it's yours that they are imitating. So, I think many presidents and famous people have said that child, the second child, is my mother's revenge. So that kid is doing to me what I did to my mother. But just know that they are modeling their relationship to God, their moral compass, their conscience on you, on your parents. And this is in spite of the fact that maybe of course you have a great pastor, but maybe you have a great pastor. Maybe you have a great youth ministry. Maybe you have a great Catholic school. Maybe you have a great religious education and formation. That's all fine. But that does not turn children into practicing Catholics. You do. You do. So let's keep thinking this. So a Catholic, we call this the domestic church. Pope John Paul II was the first one to use this expression, the domestic church. And so a Catholic home is a concrete experience of communion, of life and love, which you may have heard in the past, which is God. It is a shared life. So the first thing I want, inviting you to think about with me is what is the temperature, what is the climate, what is the condition of your Catholic home? And this is something that you can change if you need to, but you certainly have the responsibility to create. So, and of course it begins with the sacrament of matrimony. So in those families where there is a mother and father in the home, in the sacrament of matrimony, it is born in this place. So a communion of life and love. That's what we call the sacrament of matrimony. That's what we call the inner life of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, a communion of life and love. So this is a call to personal presence, availability, communion, as you see on the bottom. Why is this interesting? Because the temptation in modern family life, and again, I am not the expert on this, you are the experts on this. However, these sociologists have come up with some. But the temptation of concrete experience of communion, life, and love, the temptation is instead of shared life, it is shared space. And I have up here a model. This is a marina. A boat marina. So as you know, there's many boats there, and they are sharing very close quarters, if you will. But if you notice, they are in their little, I think they call them slips or sloughs or something like that. Everybody is in their little thing. And so the boats, they even have bumpers around them, right? So that the boats don't even touch the dock, let alone touch another boat. So that while they are sharing space, and rather intimately, if you will, close quarters, they are not sharing life. And so we can see that maybe the temptation in modern family life is that we can spend a lot of time in each other's presence, but not present to each other. And so this is a temptation, and this is something that faith and church and prayer and sacrificial love can break down. So you can inject more tenderness. You can inject forgiveness. You can inject many other virtues into your Catholic family life so that we can break down this isolation from one another. Another image, Catholic life is an experience of communion of life and love, which is God. The temptation in contemporary Catholic life is shared busyness, not shared life. And so they're kind of gross, but that's a honeycomb, a beehive, and that is actually bees, larvae down inside. So you can see, again, they are very intimate, and they are very busy. A beehive, I guess an anthill would be another good example, except the ants, I don't think, have as much of this honeycombing stuff on. So these bees are very much in connection to one another, but not so much. What they are really doing is they are sharing a busy beehive, going out and making honey or whatever they do. So a Catholic home is a concrete experience of communion of life and love, but the temptation is to hide from one another in plain sight. Don't you love this picture, this little kid? You probably have played this game with your kids, and maybe still even do. If you cover your face, you think people, because you can't see other people, they can't see you. And that this is another model of modern family life, is that we are very much in the same environment, but we are actually hiding in front of each other. We had these tragic cases of suicide. We had a young 13-year-old girl in our parish community committed suicide this past summer. And the reports that I have of, not necessarily her case, but of suicide, because now, of course, you can imagine I'm been driven to pursue this and think about it, is that while they appear very much in front of us, they are hiding an inner life, a darkness, a sadness, a suffering, a painful life, right in front of us, right in front of us. And of course, parents say, well, I didn't know. He didn't say. She didn't say. So that the call to a Catholic home is to be on the alert for these temptations. So busyness, overscheduling, isolation from one another, hiding right in plain sight from one another. Okay? So, to create a home where tenderness, forgiveness, respect, and fidelity and disinterested service are there. You have a packet. Sister has helped me to present and prepare for you this packet. The second page on that is an article. Actually, Mr. Vitardi sent out, I think, to the faculty. I don't know. He may have put it on the school's Facebook page. And so this is one of the temptations against family life, Catholic family life, and that is emotional unavailability. Again, so that because of the lives of parents, the parents don't even have the energy, or they don't even have it in their mission to be available to their children. I think in my day we would have talked about quality time versus quantity time, etc. So we are not, this is nothing new, but you might find that article helpful. There's some very specific descriptions of an isolated, compartmentalized family life in which children can be starved because, and I mentioned the teenagers. I mean, I think I know how this works. You get tired of, saying, hi, how was school today? Hi, what are you thinking? Hi, are you not happy today? Hi, is there something you want me to do? Hi, and all you get is no, no, one-word answers. You can begin to, instead of pursue it, you can begin to imitate it. Like, oh, fine. If you don't want me to be part of your life, I don't have to be part of your life. You don't have to be part of my life. So I hope that this article might give you some beginnings of the conversation of this temptation. So the domestic church, it's a great gift, it's a great call, it's a great opportunity, and it is an essential function in the church in order to produce believing, practicing Catholics for the world. And so the purpose and the ministry of the church is to support and assist parents in transforming their home into the domestic church and their children into believing Catholics and celebrating Catholics. Let me tell you a little bit about this study that was performed. It began in 2002. It's still ongoing today, and they interviewed 3,300 teenagers and over 300 parents, and they started when they were in 13, 14, 15 years of age, and they followed them for 10 years. They produced, the first book was called Soul Searching, the next one was called Souls in Transition, and I believe the third one is called The Souls of Emerging Adults. So that they have followed these kids now until the age of 22 to 25 years of age. And so they have some pretty good statistics on how these kids were practicing the faith as teenagers, understanding the faith as teenagers, and what kind of home they were living in, and what was the role of their parents. So and they did it across all religions. So Catholic Church, as a matter of fact, the Catholics came out worst on this study. Of course, the LDS, those are the Latter-day Saints people, the Mormons, they came out the number one producers, or what do they call the replicators of their faith community. So they were number one. We, the Catholics, were down there with the Jews and the Buddhists. It was so startling to these people that they even put a special chapter in the book that the Catholic Church is so phenomenally involved in the formation of young people through our Catholic education, our sacraments, our Catholic schools, Catholic high schools, Catholic colleges. One would think that we would maybe have a leg up on people, and it wasn't working. And so they sectioned out. And so what did they find out? They found out that the children who were practicing the faith as 25-year-olds or 23-year-olds came out of families where at least the one parent, the one Catholic parent in their family, so they took out all the stuff for mixed religion and for ethnicity and economics and race. Okay? They took all of it out. And so this was the bottom line. The three things that these kids reported about their family life and about their parents were that the parents believed that the faith was extremely important to their personal lives. Second, parents attended religious services weekly or more. And thirdly, and this one, I put it in red and there's an asterisk on it because this one single feature, when everything else was taken into consideration, this was the deal breaker. This was the thing that segmented those who were practicing the faith, like in the 75-80 percentile, had only this feature in their life, in their parents' life, and that was that their parents talked about religion in the home and the faith in the home. So, as you can imagine, I'm sitting there, this is interesting, because I have for the last 10 years, or 9 years, 6 years for sure, been talking with and working with people in the parish in the ability for us to share our faith. We started out this meeting this evening. I said, what my sister said, would you just share at your table some aspect of your faith? We call that faith sharing. What we have found out over the last 6 years is that we as Catholics are not so keen on this. We're not that good at it. We don't like it. And we are very likely not doing it at home. At home. Now it's starting to, because, I've been a priest for 33 years. How many people have I known over all, Father, can you believe 16 years of Catholic education? I sent all those kids to Catholic school, Catholic college, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? None of them are going to church. I said, mm-hmm. And I knew there was something up there. However, that's one of the features that Catholic parents cannot do if they expect their children to practice the faith. So they identified 3 things that you cannot do in your home and expect that your children are going to practice the faith. The first is you cannot fake or feign belief in order to transmit religion for some extrinsic reason. You know how many people I've said, over the years have said to me, Father, you know, I sent my kids to Catholic school. I like the discipline. I think, mm-hmm. I see. You know what? Uniforms. I think uniforms are the answer to every problem in the world. That's why I think we can maybe because I have some friends that are Orthodox, and I often hear from them because you know the Orthodox churches are very ethnically oriented, and so the kids are you got to go to church and say why? Well, because we're Greek, and if you're Greek, you got to go to the Orthodox church. You know, or I had some friends who were Chinese. You know, they send the kids to the Chinese school on Saturdays and all this kind of stuff. Well, so it wasn't about the religion; it was about the ethnicity. You can see. So that would be depending on what the motivation of that was. It could be working toward our practice or working against. So we cannot fake or feign the belief. Kids read through it immediately. We cannot outsource the verification of faith to religious professionals and institutions. So that's the guy who says, Father, 16 years of Catholic education. And what are those Jesuits doing down there in Georgetown? They're ruining my kid's life. You know, I sent them all to John Carroll, and all of them came out and they didn't believe in God anymore. So it is an over-reliance. It's kind of outsourcing. Make you a Catholic. You know, Father, turn that kid into a Catholic. By sending them to Catholic school, by etc. By making them make their first Holy Communion, by making them make their confirmation. Obviously, they won't be practicing their faith if you don't make them make their first communion and confirmation. But simply making them make their first communion and first confirmation is not sharing your faith with them in their home so that they know why the love of God, the celebration of the sacraments, and the communion that we have in this household and that we have in this church, it means everything. You know? I remember sitting in a limo after my dad's funeral 30 years ago, and my brother-in-law, who wasn't a Catholic at the time, said to me, Eddie, what do people who don't have any faith do on a day like today? I said, I don't know. So, we cannot outsource the faith. Finally, they fail to model. You cannot fail to model authenticity and to communicate openly about religious commitment. You know. So these are the characteristics of families whose children, as adults, are practicing the faith. And the numbers are. It's not even a close. All right? So another man from the religion department at Notre Dame who was in on this study with Christopher Smith, by the way, is the sociologist's name who led this study. He has come up with the 4 marks of a practicing Catholic's family, a household that raise practicing Catholic. So the first one is faith. Faith is an important dimension of the parent's personal journey. I know I'm getting an uncomfortable place with you. So how important is your faith in Jesus Christ lived in the Catholic Church? How important is that to your meaning-making system? How important is it to your idea of success in the world? How important is it to you in handling the difficulties and the dangers of life? So that's why we're here this evening, but that's the number one characteristic. 2, they make a conscious decision that their children have faith and they make concrete choices to achieve that. So you send your kids to religious class, you send your kids to preparation for First Communion, you send your kids to confirmation. But so that's all, that's part of it. Number 3, they're surrounded their children with multifaceted and consistent Catholic content in and outside the home. oftentimes asked that. Just, you don't have to answer it, don't have to look at me. Do you have a crucifix in your house? Do you receive any Catholic publication in your home? Do you have any images of saints? Are your kids, do they know that the rosary exists? Do they, well, of course, do they celebrate Mass on the weekend? Do they ever see their parents go to reconciliation and confess their sins? Do they see their mom and dad praying in the home? Do they pray with do mom and dad pray with me? Not tell me, go say your prayers before you go, but actually kneel down with me and pray. So this Catholic content, not only in the home, but in the environment in which you, where you entertain, where you vacation. Do you make choices for your children that have anything to do with affirming your Catholic faith? And not just the Catholic Church, but the faith of the Church. Okay. So, the domestic church. We have another handout that I was really happy to have. The people that did this study got together with the National Catholic Federation of Family Ministers and others, and they came up with this beautiful Strong Families, Strong Catholic Youth workbook. It's a handbook. It's going to explain to you much of what I have already explained to you this evening, so pardon me for being redundant. It has, I love these little tests, you know. It has a quiz in there on page 6, I believe, that you can answer honestly. You know, it's private. You can go and answer those questions about the Catholic nature of your home. And then it asks you to go back after you've answered all the questions and say, am I okay with that answer? Or is that something I'd like to change in my family life? And so that's helpful, kind of a diagnosis. But it goes on better. On page, whatever it is, the next page, developing a family faith plan. So if you decide that there's some things that you'd like to change about your Catholic faith life, you can think about it and get it out and get it down on a piece of paper. Then, just to help you accomplish that, the last few pages of this thing are probably the most important. These are the suggestions for living faith as a family. Okay? And then there's 2 pages of resources, or family prayers, and also resources, both print and online resources on the back. This is an invaluable resource for any of you who are hearing something from me this evening, or maybe from the Holy Spirit, that you might like to make a difference in your family life. Let's just, so you remember the 3 things. 1, the parents' faith was an important, meaning-making feature of life. So that was the first one. The second one is that they practiced the faith regularly. Okay? I don't think we need to say any more about that. And the third one was that parents talk about religion in the home a few times during the week. This study was so conclusive that they said that if the Catholic faith is not being handed on in the home by the parents sharing their faith, it does not happen by other means attempted. So when we asked at the beginning, why are you bringing your child to this First Communion preparation process? If your answer to that was, well, because I want my child to be a practicing Catholic. Good. I would say that was one of the right answers. I'm sure there's many right answers. However, if you are not practicing this act of sharing religious conversation and faith in your home, what this study is telling us, it will bringing your children to First Communion preparation or confirmation won't help. It won't get it done. I commend you all for taking the step, but taking this step alone is not going to accomplish that goal, that I want my child to have a beautiful and full Catholic religious life in the world. Okay? So parents are not just teachers of the faith, because sometimes I think we bring you together and say, okay, here's the prayers, here's the outfit, here's the practices, all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to help you to help them get ready to celebrate their first communion. But you don't need to be teachers of them. We'll take care of that. What you are called to in this presentation, in this study, is to be more than a teacher, to be a pastor in your home. And one of the most prominent functions of the pastor in the church is, of course, being the reflector of faith. That's what a homily is. How important the homily is at Mass. When we survey Catholics all over the world, that's the number one important thing in life of the church, and quite frankly, the most disappointing thing is the quality of the homily. But that's what we expect from the pastor, the priest, the leader, is to reflect the faith. So you are called to be a pastor, to be a mentor of your child. So not being the teacher and the disciplinarian of your child, but to be the leader of your child in the ways of faith, so that they would learn from you, not by what you say only, but by how you practice your faith. So a narrator, how many times a day do you have the opportunity, I know it's many, for a child sad about something, excited about something, frightened about something? And how often in those conversations do you rely upon your faith in the love that God has for you, your trust in God, your conviction that God will not abandon you, that God is taking you by the hand, that there are more important things than being successful, being healthy, being rich, winning. It is eternal life. It is the love of God in our lives. So you have many, many opportunities to make your faith known to your children, and that's what this study is helping us to see. So that's what I call the interpreter, because, why did this man shoot up all those people in Las Vegas? I don't know. I hope they don't ask me, because I don't have an answer. But I'm thinking you might. And quite frankly, we had a big Bible study this fall, and we studied the first 5 books of the Bible, and when I saw that, the first thing I thought, oh, there that is. That original sin, that bad seed, that enmity between brothers. It just keeps bubbling up, So that would be an interpretation of faith. I just thought this was kind of funny. I forget what this guy's name is, but did you see this on Facebook? Dear baby Jesus, let Kluber pitch perfect. Let the outfield be awake. Let the ump call a fair strike zone. And please, one last thing, let Joe Buck be sick. So we have to admit, many of us, that maybe our faith is not well developed. Maybe we are not, we are not living the faith in front of our kids in the way that would lead them to take God seriously. So this is what we're calling. So what is our faith? So, and maybe I have the first page of your handout has some of these catechism phrases on it. So, why did I bring my child to First Holy Communion preparation? Well, because I baptized him Catholic. He's a Catholic, Catholics are supposed to make their First Holy Communion, right? I could see that. I could live with that. That might be faith as membership, belonging. A lot of us are cultural Catholics. We have not done this faith reflection. We have not been convinced of the importance of God and God's role in our life. that our faith, our religion, has maybe been just more of a cultural participation. You know? I'm a Catholic, my parents were Catholic, I'm a Catholic, and this is what Catholics do. Oh, fine. So, and, when it comes to going to Mass on Sunday, my seminary professor said that if they're only coming to Mass on Sunday because they're afraid of having a mortal sin, because, that's a sin not to go to Mass on Sunday, I'll take it. It's more important that they're in church than it is that their motivation. I'm not sure about that. The reason I'm saying I'm not sure about that is because a lifelong experience of that is the only reason I'm here in church is because my mother said, I can't play baseball on Saturday if I don't go to church on Sunday, and the priest said I'm going to go to hell if I miss Mass on Sunday. If that goes on for long enough in one's formation life, I think you probably become a pretty disaffected 18-year-old. Like, really? God's gonna send me to hell because I missed a Mass on Sunday? Really? It just doesn't make sense to the adult mind, and it can probably dumb down the human heart. So faith, many people approach faith as membership in the church, and while we'll take it, it could be deeper. It could grow deeper. Second is oftentimes by Catholics, faith is understood as the catechism, the content of the church. So I joined the Catholic Church. I became Catholic because I believe everything the Catholic Church teaches, celebrates, and professes to be revealed by Christ. And that's all contained in the 3,500 paragraphs of the Catholic Catechism, and there it is right there. So that is also not a bad explanation. So why am I bringing my kid to First Holy Communion? Is because I want him to learn the faith. I want him to learn the faith. Okay? So that, again, it's just a different definition of faith, a different experience of faith. While it's a good one, it is certainly not complete enough, at least in this study that they're showing us. The third type of faith, or the definition of faith, is faith as a central or coordinating principle and priority in my life, which brings purpose and meaning and strength. So that we had the Bible study. I told you about the Bible study. And, Abraham is our father in faith. So in the first book of the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we see Abraham out there, and it's in the 15th chapter. 15th chapter. He is called outside of the house, and God says, okay, look up and count the stars of the sky. If you can see them, count them. That's how many of your descendants will be. And, of course, what we found out from the Bible study is it was high noon. And so what Abraham could see was he couldn't see any stars. But he believed. He believed even though he couldn't see. He believed that God's promise to him, even though he could not figure it out with his mind. And so they said his faith was attributed to him as righteousness. So that this idea of faith, so the book of Hebrews in the New Testament tells us faith is the evidence or the testimony, the realization of those things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So my question is, could you grow in your faith with me? I learned a lot from this Bible study already. I've been a priest for 33 years. My faith is growing because of this exercise at this point in my life. I'm thinking yours could too at this point, around this child. What a better motivation. Our Catholic faith is a chorus of a kind of a multi-voice presentation of the glory of God. And I am working with our parish council members in representing our Catholic faith to us as a Catholic community so that we might find more meaning in it. Okay? So that we have a new Vision 2020, and everyone is called to add a step of holiness, add a step of kindness, and add a step of generosity. Part of this, the fundamentals of this program of pastoral renewal is sharing our faith. So what I am pleading with you now from this study, from this reflection on our own faith, and the potential that you have to build the domestic church, is I'd like you to look at the last paper that was in your packet. And what that handout is for you is the invitation for you to consider, what is your faith? How is your faith? And to prepare yourself to share that with your child. If parents sharing religious conversation in the home with their children is the number one predictive feature of the life of young adults who are actually practicing the faith, then it seems to me that it would make perfect sense for people like me and you who want our kids to grow up to celebrate the faith, that we would begin, if we are not now, we would begin sharing our faith with our children. And what I'm hoping is that this little handout might give you the beginnings of how to structure that conversation. How to structure that conversation. And so there are, on this paper, I have 5 pieces of this faith statement. So that the first one, and maybe, I would just say, as a Roman Catholic priest who for 33 years has been fascinated by and convinced of the truth and the power of the teaching of the Catholic Church and the celebration of the sacraments, I have come to a deep trust in the presence of God in my life through the church. So, as a Catholic priest for 33 years, who was schooled in the teaching of the church and convinced of its truth and its power, and in the beauty and the power of the sacraments, I have come to a deep trust in the presence of God to me and to us in the life of the church. And I'm sharing that with you because I'm thinking that you might be willing to consider the love that God has for you available in the church because of my witness to it. And what I would tell you about that is that trust in the love that God has for us available in the church can make all the difference in your life. All the difference in your life. I can't say that I've ever made my personal faith statement to my nieces and nephews. But I'm thinking about it. They're 30 now, so I probably missed my chance. But yours could be much simpler. Well, as a practicing Catholic, I believe in going to Mass every Sunday. And I think it's the best way for me to guarantee my life in heaven. As a matter of fact, I kind of see Mass as a practice for the life of heaven. And, honey, I am bringing you to First Holy Communion program because I want to share the life of heaven with you forever. So you need to get up there and you need to get in there so that we can share eternal life forever together. I fell in love with you the minute I looked in your face when you were 2 minutes old. And I don't ever want to take my eyes off of your face. That's why I'm bringing my kid to First Communion practice. That's why. Sisters and brothers, I plead with you, consider your faith. Okay? Consider your faith. Consider the faith of your children. And be convinced, believe with me what these people are telling us, that by sharing your faith, well, affirming your faith, and then sharing your faith with your children, you can have the remarkable influence on how they grow up to be believing, practicing Catholics with a great relationship with God and a healthy relationship with the church. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.